Okay, thank you, Bobo. And I will go on to the next section and talk about the TIBCO Developer Hub in combination with the MakeDoc tool. So first of all, what is the TIBCO Developer Hub? The TIBCO Developer Hub is, let's say, the centralized pane of glass for developers within the TIBCO platform. And the TIBCO platform is basically TIBCO's approach to platform engineering, which forms the single pane of glass for all of your TIBCO products/capabilities. If you want to know more about the TIBCO platform, we've actually done a webinar, the first one out of this Tech Talks series, specifically on the TIBCO platform. So if you haven't watched that one already, I would recommend you to go and watch that one. You can find out all that you can do with the platform and the control plane. But let's talk about the Developer Hub for a second. So the Developer Hub is basically for TIBCO developers, and it brings everything together for a developer, right? So you can have your list of APIs, you can have your documentation, you can have your source code, you can use templates to create new assets. You can manage your CI/CD pipelines, track them. And what's also very cool is that the Developer Hub is based on an open source technology called Backstage.io as part of the CNCF, originally started by Spotify. And on that topic, we've also done a webinar, the previous webinar. So if you're interested and you haven't seen that one, please go look. We do a deep dive into the Developer Hub itself and Backstage, the underlying platform of that. And we also have a look at templates and how to use them. But today we'll focus more on documentation and how you can bring documentation together for developers. So what is a very important notion inside of, let's say, platform engineering and a developer portal is this notion of DevOps, right? So that the developer is kind of more responsible for how things run in operation, and that the operator very quickly knows how things work, right? And a developer portal is a key asset of that. And that is because through a developer portal, you can very quickly find the resources. You can find the documentation, you can see how things are happening because it's described there, and the documentation should typically will always be up to date with the code. But if you can't find something in the documentation, you can also see which person or which department is responsible for that specific component out of the architecture. And that's also nice because you can have a complete view of the architecture in the Developer Hub. So you have this architectural view. You can also have a list of APIs in your API catalog, and you can basically run templates. So you can basically create new components or do something called self-service integration. But today we'll focus on documentation. And about a year ago, when I was actually showing the Developer Hub to Rory on one of the events of TIBCO, I was showing him that you could show documentation inside of the Developer Hub, and he was talking about MakeDoc and the MakeDoc tool and how that documentation can be generated. And we started chatting, and we figured out that with MakeDoc back then, you could only create like PDF, HTML, and Word document-based documentation, but that the Developer Hub or Backstage basically runs on MD, so the Markdown format. So we did a technical discovery, and we basically made a change that MakeDoc can also support the output format of MD, which then in turn inside of the Developer Hub gets basically published as a web page, so eventually becomes HTML again, but it lives as MD files next to your code. And that's actually what I want to demo today.